Today is Tuesday, June the 2nd, starting off with FinViz as we always do. Volume a little bit higher than yesterday, not much different. Big push towards the end of the day. Don't know what happened at the end of the day. Look at all of the green. So despite all of what's going on in the streets and the civil unrest, the market continues to assume that all is good. The coronavirus is behind us. The economy is reopening. And all of the 40 million job losses will disappear. So we are buying the rumor. And the worry, of course, is always come September when we see what the news is, what will happen then. So I did not add to my SPY short position because the market was going up. If the market goes down tomorrow, I will continue to add August 290 puts and sell the 280 puts. The McClellan oscillator looked like this. Don't have to tell you because we've been talking about it for some time now, but this is the concern we have. This trend line, perfect between these 4 points now, which would indicate a critical day tomorrow. We either get rejected and the bears bring pressure on trading and send the McClellan oscillator down, and this will be as high as it gets for some time being, or we create a new high tomorrow, and it shouldn't be all that difficult to do if you look at the number of advances to decliners that we need to have tomorrow for it to be unchanged, 822, and it would stay where it is. So anything over 822 and it moves up. So roughly if we have an imbalance of 1,000, we should be able to get as high as the previous high. Today's imbalance was a difference of 1,408. Yesterday we saw 1,498. So we could be 40% lower than that and still have a day where we still show that the bulls are in charge, but possibly getting weaker. Let's look at volume now. So let's go back to here, and there's our stacked volume showing we have a little bit more volume than yesterday, still less than every day last week, and more than the 2 weeks, and less than 2 weeks prior. So we lost the momentum that we were picking up last week in volume. The volume in shares traded advances was a little bit more than yesterday, and the ratio was about the same. We saw that number of shares, a number of issues traded differed only by 100, but the volume was roughly the same proportionally. And the summation index continues to crank higher. And I'm going to bring in another little chart here for you. This is the summation index. You can see where we are now, and you can see the number of times that we've passed this. We had difficulty back here in the last summer staying above this line. We had a long period as the Dow was surging forward of keeping the summation index above this line. Once we get up over the 4,000, if we head that high, you can see the number of instances of having a summation over 4,000 is really quite low. We are now at a summation index of, I can close this now. Let me show you a summation index now of 2733, so almost 3,000. Charts. The important chart is the Dow Jones. Dow Jones started the day above 200, 200-day EMA, came back to fill its opening gap, then moved higher. So we're above the 200-day. Will we come back like the S&P and retest the 200 and then move higher? We passed the 200 in the S&P way back here on May the 18th, but the Dow Jones is only today passing the 200. So let's keep an eye on that. Let's look at it on a weekly basis, where we can see that we are in the cloud, but definitely moving in an upwards direction. This is an area of concern right here in the future. where we expect to be pulling towards. So let's just put a little arrow there to remember that on this day we talked about that very thin portion of the cloud up ahead. Apple up $1.16, starting to break out from the handle, but it's had one day like this before and it pulled back. Let's see if we can break out of the cup and handle pattern, and Apple will be going higher. They announced today that they're lowering their prices in China to pick up some additional volume. Caterpillar looking good, still below the 200. Nice pullback. We don't want Caterpillar to move up too quickly. I'd like to see it mosey on to 130 sometime in the fall. Home Depot goes ex-dividend tomorrow, and it looks like a lot of people were trying to jump into that $1.50 dividend because we had a huge pop today. We're now well over our 100% mark, so we've made a new high, but for the first time we've been able to hold and close at a new high. So this is great for Home Depot. I wanted to keep my shares, of which I have 700, but I was short 245 calls and 250 calls. So I rolled them both into next week for about $1.80 credit in one case, $1.20 credit in the other case, but it'll allow me to keep the $1.50 dividend. I don't expect that those short calls will be exercised by anybody tonight and leave me with no shares tomorrow. But if that's the case, I expect the Home Depot to pull back because of the dividend and then just to continue to move higher. Whirlpool 3.82%. It's also above its 200. CrowdStrike looked like it was moving down. Did finish down, but not as bad as it could have been. FSLY got this iron cross, sort of like a gymnast hanging between two rings. Call that an iron cross. Coca-Cola just doing nothing. Netflix continuing to be repelled by this C point in this shark pattern. U.S. Bank, like all banks, started off pretty well today. Actually, they didn't do too badly. Only U.S. Bank, of the banks that we follow, actually pulled back, so that's a little bit concerning. Where are we going tomorrow? The key thing to know about tomorrow is that the Dow Jones has gotten over its 200, and the McClellan index, McClellan oscillator, is within a couple of hundred higher, moving to, let's say we had 1,000, 1,100 advancers over decliners. We're going to break this bearish pattern of seeing lower highs on the McClellan oscillator, and then we're definitely going to continue to move in the upwards direction.